Welcome to Left Off the Map. Today we're in the kitchen. Ben's going to be helping me cook with truffles after learning with you for about a year, or learning from you for about a year. It's a bit of a change in dynamic and I'm not quite sure how I feel about it.
When it comes to truffles, mate, I'm happy to take any advice I can get from you.
Oh, geez. Well, pressure's on. Pressure's on. And later on, we're going to be going out to my truffle farm and I'm going to show you, Ben, what we do.
Cool. What recipe are we doing, Henry?
Today we're going to do truffle ice cream. So
right.
It's a bit of a funky one. Truffles and dessert doesn't really have a history, I suppose.
No.
But if you have a smell of these things, tell me what you're smelling.
So I smell strawberries. So
Strawberries.
Sweet, macerated strawberries.
Yeah, okay.
So strawberries and ice cream?
Beautiful.
It
Yeah,
works.
absolutely. I mean, I don't get strawberries as much.
What
but
do you get?
I get truffle.
Oh, right.
That's
Fair
what I
enough.
always say. I get
enough.
truffle. It's so unique. It's like...
I get that, but there's layers, and I can get, like, for me, if I put together a bowl of macerated strawberries for you, and I reckon if we did you'd go, oh yeah, that smells like...
Totally. I mean, your knowledge on that, you're a genius with that sort of stuff. I've always said, I've never been able to break it down, so I've always said truffle is just one of those things. It's a truffle.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how it smells, but...
In saying that, that's the same. I say to people, when people say to me, what is it about truffle that makes it so expensive and why do people go after it? I'm like, because the only thing that tastes like a truffle is a truffle.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. But, I mean, truffle ice cream, it is a bit different, but it works so well. While these are, you know, it's a strong smell, it's a beautiful smell, it's also a subtle ingredient. It's not like you're putting chili into a dish.
Yeah.
We try, whenever I'm cooking with truffles, it's 3 or 4 ingredients, keep it really simple. And if you can add fat into the dish, it just makes all the difference. It'll carry that flavour and you'd know all about the science with that.
In all recipes, if you want to carry flavour, you add fat.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Absolutely. So truffle ice cream, and for a bit of a crunch textural element, we're going to do some honey roasted walnuts.
Oh, classic.
I'll get a start on the ice cream. So to begin with, I'm just going to get some milk and cream and get that on the heat, heat it up. That'll form the base of my custard.
All right, so what we'll do is we might get your custard going, and then while you're stirring, I'll get the walnuts sorted.
Good idea. All right. So to make the truffle ice cream, I'm going to start with some milk and cream, combining those two with a vanilla bean, heating it up on the stove to make the base of our custard. After I've got my milk on the heat, I'm going to combine some egg yolks with some sugar, whisk it together till it stops being crunchy. 200 grams of sugar, 12 egg yolks, whisked up, make sure that's smooth.
Yep.
Milk, cream, vanilla bean in here, it's smelling spectacular. We want to add this into our egg mixture really slowly. We don't want to quite bring the milk to a boil. So this is where, if there's going to be a mistake with making ice cream,
where it's going to be.
as you know, you want to pour it in really slowly. Otherwise, you're going to scramble your eggs. Yep. So we're going to incorporate this slowly, then bring it back onto the heat, and then just gently keep stirring it.
So here, if you don't have a helper in the kitchen with you like this who can stir while you pour, the best way to get around it, this is a little magic trick. Get a tea towel. Just make a little, that'll hold it
mate.
exactly where you need it to be so you can hold it.
I'm learning. This is great. All right, so let's get it in. You're happy to whisk?
I'll whisk, my friend.
Sweet. Slow and steady. Oh,
It always happens if you don't have a little spout on your pot, doesn't it?
Nice spout would be good.
Yeah.
A bit at a time.
Oh, that's enough.
That's a lot.
But that's fine because the amount that went in there, as opposed to what's in there, that's not even warm yet.
Yeah, it's
Because
good.
it cools down really quickly when you don't have a huge volume.
Yeah. We'll go again.
Beautiful.
Making a mess.
So a little bit of advice for people at home, get one with a spout.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Clearly didn't think this through.
You happy with that?
Yeah, I am. We'll keep adding this milk, though.
A bit at a time.
You smell that vanilla?
Yeah, it's coming together beautifully.
It's probably my two favourite smells, vanilla, fresh vanilla bean, well, as fresh as you can get it here in Australia, and fresh truffle.
Yeah, I love getting a vanilla bean when it comes out of, you might get it in one of those little sort of test tubes, and it's really soft.
Yeah.
You know it's like super fresh.
Beautiful. We're all in.
Look at that.
There you go. Amazing. Beautiful. Thank you. Now I want to turn the heat right down on that. That's good. So we've already talked about it, but we're putting it back on the heat. You want to keep it really, really low, and this is where you want to give it plenty of attention. Just keep stirring it, because at the bottom of the pot, it's going to be a lot hotter than at the top, and you can easily sort of set your custard and scramble your eggs. So,
what are you looking for with the set custard?
Yep, for me, it's just a real feel thing. So I'm constantly stirring, and it'll quite quickly just thicken.
You'll feel it.
And it'll, on top, it'll go silky, really silky.
All those bubbles will disappear?
Yeah.
Yep.
Bubbles will disappear. You get this silky, smooth, wavy custard. And at that point, you can get it off the heat and it's ready to be chilled.
So what you're looking for, all those bubbles will go. You're looking for what we call a sabayon ribbon, which is what Henry's talking about. It'll be silky smooth, it'll fold over itself, and that's when you know you're getting there.
What did you call that?
Sabayon.
A sabayon ribbon.
Yeah. So you're making a sabayon here.
A sabayon.
And then the ribbon is that movement that you get. Normally it's with a whisk. So when you fold a whisk through it, the whisk lines stay.
Okay. Yeah. So a sabayon is not a custard, or is this like a sabayon is the actual...
The process of cooking the egg, it can be with milk, makes it a custard.
Okay.
If we put lemon juice in there to make a curd,
yeah,
that process is called making a sabayon.
Right. Okay.
And then the ribbon is when normally you would pass a whisk through it and the lines would stay.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't see them collapse on themselves.
Right.
And that's a ribbon.
Okay.
And you know you've gone to the right consistency then.
There you go.
But normally you just put a thermometer, a little stick thermometer in there.
Yeah.
Once you get to 80.
So that's your foolproof. If you're doing it for the first time, grab a thermometer.
Yep,
and
little
you're gonna
probe
be
thermometer,
right.
80 degrees, you're done.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so we're going to leave the ice cream for now, and Ben, you came out to the farm the other day.
On probably one of the best Tasmanian days we've had in a long time. It was still, it was warm, it was absolutely gorgeous. And Henry taught me a little bit about truffle farming here in Tasmania. And the truffle industry in Tassie has been going for how long?
Oh, geez, probably about 25 years. My parents started in 1994. They planted their first trees, and
Were they the first?
they were the first ones to grow a truffle
Right.
in Australia. So, or the French black truffle. So we've got lots of native varieties here, but the one that you're after is the French black truffle, and they grew the first one in 99, I think. So
It has been a while.
yeah, 21 years of producing truffles now.
And what have we learnt in 21 years of producing truffles? What are the big steps forward?
Well, there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, right. There probably would be. And what are the big three things? If you could sort of say these are the three things we know now that we didn't know then.
Okay, well, I think from an agricultural perspective, it's been a really big learning curve. For the last 20 years, it's a really young industry, and there's still a lot happening. But French black truffles, obviously originating in France, have a totally different environment that they grow in. So over there, you've got these really calcium-rich soils, extremely cold winters, extremely hot summers.
Right.
Now, the original thinking was to grow these here. If you flip the world, latitude-wise, Tassie's on a similar latitude to France.
Right.
But it actually turns out the climate is completely different.
Okay.
So in France, you've got those extremes, hot summers, cold winters. Here, you're just mild, pretty mild.
So
at
does
both
that
ends of
create
the
a
spectrum.
different truffle, or does it just mean it creates a different way of growing a truffle?
A bit of both. So we grow lower volumes here in Tassie because we don't get those really hot summers. So the truffle actually takes about a year to form and mature. So in the summertime, these trees are starting to grow their truffles. And so hot weather and moisture makes for perfect conditions to get lots of fruit.
If we've got a nice hot summer and a decent amount of rain,
Perfect.
you're looking good.
The quality is exceptional. So we've got these beautiful, intense truffles, which we have to say we do have those pretty much every year here because we're in the most beautiful part of the world. So yeah, but we're low on volume, and I'm racking my brain thinking, what was it? Water. How did we manage the soil? What trace elements did we or didn't we put on? And I've done it for days, and I tell you what, I haven't come up with anything. So it's yeah, it's a frustrating thing, but it also adds to the magic of it. It's a rare ingredient, and you know, it kind of is like finding buried treasure, and I think that'll remain that way. It's sort of a lot of people trying to figure it out, but it's not like growing potatoes, and that's why they're so valuable.
The same colloquialisms that apply to most things that are grown in Tasmania still apply to truffles, that we grow things slower here, which means they're better quality, they're more intense. We've got this temperate sort of climate that is pretty sort of steady along the year. We don't have the really high ups and the really low downs, so everything grows at a nice, gentle pace, creating better product. Does that ring true for truffles as well?
Totally believe that. I touched on it earlier. We've got these sort of mildish summers, fairly mild winter, although it does get pretty cold. But in the summertime, they grow slowly and you just get this intensity like nowhere else. And Tasmanian truffles are world-renowned now for their flavour. And when we started 20 years ago, my parents had real trouble actually marketing the truffles because everyone said, well, they're from Tassie, they couldn't be good. And the opposite was true. And in the space of 5-10 years, that changed from being, well, don't get Tassie truffles, they have to be French, to being, get Tassie truffles, they're unbelievable.
Wow. That's, I reckon a lot of Tasmanian produce, which is high-end Tasmanian produce, would have gone through that exact same process of what is this, where is Tasmania, to now get me Tasmanian.
Totally. Hasn't it exploded over the last decade? Since I've, become an adult, it's amazing to watch. Like I've gone down to the Salamanca markets in Hobart and I've seen that change over the last 6 or 7 years, and the people that are coming, just from all over the place just to get a hold of some of the produce.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool time to be in Tasmania and be part of this resurgence, this renaissance of food and produce all over the world.
Absolutely, absolutely.
One other question I want to ask is, I always notice, I've been to a few trufferys, good ones, always have this sort of brulee. And then there's a point where grass stops and starts.
You're very well educated.
I've been to a few. That process to see that is a good thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. So the brulee, that burnt off area, it's hard. You almost have to imagine it, but you can see down the row. You've got those, and you can see it. Those round like circles, and that's the root system of the tree where it's extending to. But it's actually an indicator that the fungi's present on the roots. So truffles are the fruit of the fungi. The fungi actually attaches itself to the root system, and if you imagine mould under a microscope, millions of little hyphae going everywhere, that's what's happening here under these trees. The fungi will actually help feed the tree with nutrients and water because the hyphae are so fine. Symbiotic, they help each other, and when the fungi wants to move around, it produces a truffle. So, because it can't blow in the wind like other things. It does, so a pig could come up,
that's why it tastes so good.
Excrete. Exactly. So this particular farm actually was originally a lot bigger in terms of, we had a lot more trees. We had 18,000 trees here, which was huge. Back in the 90s, it would have been the biggest one, I imagine. Don't quote me on that, but big farm. And over time, we've actually refined the process. So the first trees that we got, the inoculation process, which is early days when you're getting the fungi on the root system as a seedling, wasn't ideal. And so we've learned from that process. And so now we've only got about 5,000 trees, but really productive ones. And that lets us operate on a sort of a small scale, but do everything to a really high quality.
Let's get back to the kitchen and we'll cook with some truffle.
Beauty. Righto, Ben, I've got my custard. It's thickened up, velvety, smooth, absolutely beautiful. I suppose when I'm doing this, I want to make sure I go really, really slowly, so that way it doesn't get on top of you. If you've got it under high heat, you can really easily scramble your eggs. So that's the biggest thing I'm looking for. Take it slow, and then you'll actually see the process happen, see it change, and you don't have to panic. So nice and simple. It's all ready to go. We're going to chill that down. You want to get that down in the fridge as long as you can. If you can get it down to sort of fridge temperature, it'll go really well in the churner. If you put it into the churner hot, it'll just melt it. So you won't actually get an ice cream at the end.
You also tend to get a lot more ice crystals. It's not as smooth if you're churning from hot to cold.
And why is that?
So you're losing moisture out of there at the moment. So you've got a lot of water that's still being activated in there. If you're putting that in a churner now, you end up with larger crystals in something that's hot than you do something that's cold that cools down quickly. It's like the crystals we find in igneous rocks when they go from hot to cold quickly. The smaller crystals.
And that's another tip for ice cream in general as well. Well, for me, I find making ice cream with fruit's very, very difficult because you've got that huge moisture
water
content. So you end up with this icy.
That's why with fruits, you normally make a gelato or a granita or something like that rather than an ice cream out of them.
Yeah. Cool.
So we'll let that cool?
Yep.
All right.
So let that cool. I'll get that in the fridge. How are you going with the walnuts?
Our honey walnuts are going good. So basically I just put some honey and some water in there, throw my walnuts in with a little bit of salt, and I'm just going to let that bubble away for a little bit longer on the heat until we sort of get rid of all that water.
Yep.
And we're just left with the honey again.
Beautiful.
And then they'll be nicely coated. They go onto your oven tray, into the oven
Yep.
until they go nice and crunchy.
Lovely.
Yep.
One thing I forgot.
Ooh.
I better get the
Truffle. The whole reason for doing this.
Forgot the truffle. Put the truffle into your custard after you've taken it off the heat and when you're about to put it in the fridge. This will let it infuse for a while without actually cooking the flavour of the truffle out.
So, a question. Would you use a microplane? Well, you've got this old bad boy.
Yeah.
So, microplaney or slicey, mandolini?
Microplaney.
Right.
A microplaney all day long for the ice cream. So the more surface area of truffle you can get in contact with your food, the more flavour you're going to impart. So with truffle, finer is generally better. I find a truffle slicer like this that's adjustable, which is it's really, really handy. It can be great for garnishing and you get those beautiful discs.
The rounds, you get all that, the marbling, you can see that.
You get the aesthetics, the prettiness, but for just pure flavour, which is what we're looking for in this ice cream, and this gives a really great effect. You get this black fleck right through the ice cream.
Yep.
So just microplane that in. In terms of how much you should use...
Now, and what I will say, remember everyone at home doesn't have these in their backyard.
No.
All right, so don't go crazy.
Yeah.
Show us what you actually should use.
What you should use. Well, that's how long is a piece of string? That's
right,
the
how
thing.
much money have you got? How much money do you want to give Henry?
Pretty much.
So this is how much you put in. You get all three and you get...
Just chuck them in. So, I mean... Oh dear. All right. Look, what I recommend is base it off about 6 grams of truffle per person per serve. So if you can.
Cool.
Now you can
That's a good ratio.
Yeah. In ice cream, you can get away with a bit less than that. That's all right. It's really up to you guys to experiment with what works best for you.
And what is it at the moment? About $3 a gram?
About $2.50 a gram. $2.50 a gram. So, and it depends on the variety you get. So we've got the winter black truffle today. Now they're the most expensive at $2.50 a gram, but we also have a summer variety that we sell for $1.50 a gram that also does a good job.
And have you ever done it just as a custard? Have you ever not churned it?
Yeah, I have. Beautiful.
So people could just do it, yeah.
Absolutely. Yep, you could stop
So
it
if
there.
they weren't ice cream fans, they could just do a nice cold custard, keep it in the fridge.
Yeah. I mean, the principles are the same, you know. It's like you've got a nice fatty dish that's going to carry that flavour.
So all you're doing is stopping at this point instead of churning.
Absolutely.
Churning.
Yep. No worries. And other things you can do afterwards with the ice cream. You can do anything. I mean, we're putting some walnuts on for a bit of crunch, but yeah, there's so much you can do with it.
Cool.
All right, so truffle in, microplane. Now, this is the scary bit for most people, but this is the bit I like.
It does, the way it clumps like that too, it looks like a lot.
Yeah.
Like, look at how much you've grated so far off the truffle, and look at how much it looks like there is in there. Because because you've grated, it looks like there's a lot.
Yeah.
How much would that one weigh?
So we've got about a 30-gram truffle here. About the size of, I mean, for those at home, 30-gram truffle is about the size of a golf ball. So if you're ordering online, you can sort of use that as a bit of a yardstick. Yeah. All right, so we've had our custard cooling in the fridge. That is ready to put in the churner. You've got your walnuts in the oven. They'll be nice and crunchy, a beautiful little garnish to finish the dish with. So let's get started. So that's truffle ice cream. It's my absolute favourite way to enjoy truffle. Jump online, get some truffles for yourself, or jump on the socials, try the recipe out, tell us what you think, tell us what you do at home and how you play with them.
Give it a go, everyone, and let him know. See ya.